India's best UPSC interview guidance by former UPSC board members. 5-pronged approach includes DAF briefing, one-to-one sessions, regional information guidance, feedback by a psychologist, mock interview mimicking the actual interview by former UPSC board members only at KPIS Delhi. This is the guidance by the best to ace the UPSC race. WhatsApp your DAF to 9133957733 now.
Hello and a very warm welcome to KPIS Delhi campus. This is Anil Kumar and I welcome you all to this C.A.R.E initiative, Current Affairs through Reverse Engineering program. So let us look at the important articles which came up in today's newspaper, dated 6th of January 2024. The first issue that we are going to cover up is regarding the fuel cells, which forms part of your GS paper 3. Under this GS paper 3, you have environmental pollution, degradation, environmental impact assessment and conservation. So this fuel cell topic has been in news because ISRO has recently successfully tested this polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cell based on power system in its orbital platform. So this component becomes important with respect to ISRO's fuel cell testing, which has been held successful. Next, we are going to look at some important prelims related topics which are important for your examination as well. One such important topic is the Martian upper atmosphere. It is regarding the Mars. The scientists in this particular Mars atmosphere have detected the existence of some high frequency plasma waves in the atmosphere. So we will be looking at what is plasma waves and what are its role it has to play in the atmosphere of Mars. Next important article is beam stack. As we all know, it forms part of your GS paper 2 under international institutions, groupings and agreements involving India or which are affecting India's interest, or regional groupings, India and its neighborhoods. All this forms part of your GS paper 2. So this beam stack is important because recently an ambassador or a senior diplomat of India, Mani Pandey, has been appointed as the Secretary General of BeamStack. BeamStack stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, which is headquartered in Dhaka. Next important thing that we are going to cover up is regarding the Prithvi. Prithvi here stands for Prithvi Vigyan, which is an initiative of Ministry of Earth Sciences. So recently the cabinet has approved this overarching scheme called as Prithvi. What are the provisions of this Prithvi, under which ministry is it functioning and all? We'll be looking into this particular issue. And the final topic for today's discussion is the Dizzy Yatra initiative. This is also part of your GS paper 2, government policies and interventions. So center has launched something called as Dizzy Yatra, where it frees the passengers who are traveling through air to enroll themselves, or the enrollment takes place or it takes off the airport security agencies and the flyers can move very freely without their consent. That is what we will be looking at. What are the objectives of this particular issue and all? We will be looking into it. So let us begin our discussion with the first important article. First important article, as I told you, ISRO's fuel cell flight tested in PSLV C58. So here the context is ISRO has recently tested the 100-watt class polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cell based power system in its orbital platform POEM-3. This is the context of this particular article. Firstly, you need to understand what is a fuel cell. See, fuel cell is required for functioning of anything that has to be functioning. You need certain energy. So in order to produce that energy, you require fuel cells. So what is fuel cell? It is basically a galvanic cell. You can say it in simple terms. It is a galvanic cell, which is also known as electrochemical cell. Galvanic cell is also known as electrochemical cell. So the major purpose of fuel cell is it basically converts the chemical energy into electrical energy. That is the purpose of fuel cell. So in order to transform transform this chemical energy into electrical energy, some spontaneous chemical reaction has to happen within this particular cell. So this spontaneous chemical reaction which is happening in this particular cell will generate something called as electricity. So how does this spontaneous chemical reaction happen? As we all are aware, chemical reactions within a particular fuel cell happens through combustion process, where heat is generated and your hydrogen or methane, whatever the fuel you're taking, it will be transforming this chemical energy will be transforming into electrical energy. This is the basic definition of fuel cell. It is a electrochemical cell that is designed to convert the energy of combustion of fuels like hydrogen and methane or any type of methanol directly into electrical energy. This is the fuel cell in simple terms. So now these fuel cells are important because they are designed to convert energy of combustion of fuels from hydrogen, methane, methanol directly into electrical energy. So this happens. So in order to understand the working of a fuel cell, let me draw you a small diagram which will benefit you to understand in a clearer manner. See, let us consider a small tunnel, a fuel cell. Whenever you're talking about fuel cell, see, here we are considering the input or the catalyst, whatever we are considering, the fuel input that we are taking is hydrogen. And also it reacts with oxygen, which is freely prevalent in the air. So this fuel cell consists of some electrodes, which is separating these two chambers. This electrodes has to be maintained. One is called as anode and the other one is called as cathode. Anode, as you all know, it is negatively charged. Cathode is positively charged. And whatever the outcome, the catalyst that we are considering within this fuel cell can be of numerous catalysts, can be combination of anything. It can be an OAH. Depending upon the catalyst that we are using, the types of fuel cells will again be classified. So this is a simple diagram in which you can understand the working of a fuel cell. Firstly, what is required is the fuel input. In this particular case, it is the hydrogen, which is the fuel input, which will operate on the principle of electrochemical reaction, which is chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. So common fuels that we use as fuel input is hydrogen, natural gas, methanol, or any type of hydrocarbons. This is the first stage in the working of fuel cell, which is fuel input. And then second stage is, as I told you, you have to have an electrolyte material. This electrolyte material acts as a polymer electrolytic membrane, PEM. You call it polymer electrolytic membrane. These membranes. It can be polymer electrolytic membrane, it can be solid oxide, or it can be any kind of molten carbons or any electrolytes which are alkaline in nature, depending upon the type of fuel which you are using. These electrolytes is the second stage. You have to create this electrolytic material. Then you have one anode which is negatively charged. So this negative electrode, the fuel is introduced at this anode, which is negative electrode. If hydrogen fuel is introduced, then for example hydrogen molecules H2 are split into protons and electrons. H2 is split into H plus, which is proton and electron. So this is how the functioning happens within this fuel cell. Then when this fuel is introduced at the anode, which is negative electrode, then the electrons flow in this particular fuel cell. So the electrons which are released at the anode cannot pass through this electrolyte directly because you are using certain material which will restrict the flow of this electrons. So they create an external circuit or flow within this particular electron flow will happen. So whenever this flow is happening, it creates something called as generation of electricity. Heat is created and electricity is generated. Electrons flow from this external circuit, creating an electrical current. This has been harnessed for your power, to power any sort of machines or engines. This is how electricity is generated from chemical energy to electrical energy with the help of fuel cell. This is the working mechanism which is associated with this particular fuel cell. So here you have another component called as cathode, which is acting as a positive electrode. So in this cathode, you are utilizing the air, which is free air, which is the oxygen. It is supplied to the cathode as a positive electrode. At this cathode, These oxygen molecules react with the protons and electrons to form a byproduct or output called as H2O, which is water. So the byproduct of this complete fuel cell is also water. So this is how the functioning or working of fuel cell happens. It is basically an ion exchange electrolyte. Chemical reaction happens at cathode, at protons, at electrons, and oxygen combine to produce water and heat. This is the working process of fuel cell. As simple as that. You need not think this is too much technical. It is as simple as that. So because of this fuel cell, the fuel cell of hydrogen oxygen is one of the most successful fuel cells because they are less polluting, which is regarded as a pollution free, and it is of future importance as well, because whatever hydrogen and oxygen you are considering, this fuel cell has also been used for providing electric power to various space programs. Like for example, the Apollo space program has also been used this particular fuel cell. And whatever water vapor that we are talking about, the vapor that is produced during this reaction is also condensed, and it can help the astronauts to use it for drinking purposes as well. So supply of drinking water can also happen by utilizing this hydrogen and oxygen fuel cell. So huge advantages that you can accord for this particular fuel cell. So as I told you, any advantages that you can talk about fuel cell is, firstly, high energy conservation efficiencies. High energy conservation efficiencies is the first point. Compared to conventional powers, this is more efficient in converting fuel or chemical into electricity or electrical energy. Second important thing, as I told you, it has lower and zero emissions because it only releases water and water vapor. There's nothing polluting. So this is second advantage. Third important advantage that you can talk about is it emits only water. So it also addresses the critical climate challenges that we are talking about, as no carbon dioxide emissions is happening by utilization of this fuel cells in any sort of electric power vehicles. That could be another important advantage. And these fuel cells also quietly, compared with traditional combustion engines, they operate very quietly. They do not make a lot of noise. So they are suitable for applications or appliances where noise pollution is also a concern. In residential areas where you should not produce beyond permissible levels of noise pollution, at those places also for electricity purposes you can use this fuel cells as well. And the fuel cells can also utilize variety of fuels. As I told you, hydrogen is one such example that we are considering in this particular fuel cell. You can use hydrogen, you can use natural gas, it can be methanol, or it can be any sort of biofuels as well. So the versatility of all the fuel cells enables adaptation to different fuels availability and the infrastructure scenarios. Depending upon the availability, you can use it. So finally, the advantages, whatever we are talking about, they reduce maintenance requirements and also increase reliability. When there is reliability, this can result into longer operational lifespans for these fuel cells, because nothing, you just need to supply it with hydrogen, and oxygen in this particular fuel cells is abundantly available in free air. So fuel cells can only operate independently of the electricity grid. So these are the basic advantages of this fuel cell. So if you look at the types of fuel cells, how it is classified, as I told you, the types of fuel cells are classified based on the polymer, based on the electrolyte that we are using. This is what is regarded as electrolyte. Depending upon the electrolyte, you can differentiate different types of fuel cells. One such important fuel cell is polymer electrolytic membrane fuel cell. Polymer electrolytic membrane fuel cell. This is the first important type of fuel cells. As I told you, polymer electrolyte membrane. This membranes, anode and cathode, are separated with a membrane. So here in polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cells, proton exchange membrane fuel cells are used. So solid polymer is used as an electrolyte, and porous carbon electrodes containing very strong platinum or platinum alloy catalysts can be used. So this acts in order to take up this chemical reaction within this particular electrolyte. It acts as a catalyst. So they need only hydrogen. In this particular PEMC, polymer electrolytic membrane, what you need is, you need only hydrogen, you need only oxygen from the free air and water to operate. These are the things that are required for PEMC fuel cells, polymer electrolyte membrane fuel cells. You need only hydrogen, oxygen and water. This is acting as a electrolyte or polymer or a catalyst. So they operate relatively at very low temperatures, somewhere around 80 degrees centigrade is the capacity, or if you talk in terms of Fahrenheit, it is 176 degrees Fahrenheit. So low temperature operations allow them to start easily at low temperatures because less warm up time is required because of relatively lower temperatures, which will result in less wear and tear of system components, which also ensures better durability of these products as well. However, the noble catalyst, the catalyst that we are talking about, it has to be a typical platinum, because if we use this, it can be used to separate the hydrogen electrons and protons, adding to cost the system as well. This is one concern with respect to this PEM fuel cells. And the platinum catalyst that we are using is also extremely sensitive to carbon monoxide poisoning. It is very sensitive to carbon monoxide, making it necessary to employ additional reactor to reduce carbon monoxide emissions within this fuel gas, because hydrogen is derived from hydrocarbon fuel. So it is this polymer electrolyte membrane is very sensitive to carbon monoxide. This is the PEMC fuel cell. Then you have second type of fuel cell called as direct methanol fuel cells. Here the catalyst that we are using is methanol. As simple as that. Depending upon the catalyst, you are classifying fuel cells into different types. And the third category is called as alkaline fuel cells. Here you are using alkaline, any sort of alkaline solution. It can be potassium hydroxide, which acts as a alkaline in this particular fuel cell, or it acts as a catalyst. The sodium hydroxide acts as a catalyst. Similarly, the fourth type of fuel cell can be phosphoric acid fuel cells as well. In this, you will be using liquid phosphoric acid as a catalyst or as an electrolyte. So in phosphorus acid fuel cells, the liquid phosphorus acts as a electrolyte. So porous carbons are emitted. So impurities, more tolerant impurities in the fossil fuels can also be used in the fuel cells. So this typically is basically used for stationary power generations with high capacity, large vehicles, city buses. All these can use this particular phosphoric acid fuel cells. Then another type of fuel cell is molten carbonate fuel cell. When you say molten carbonate, which molten, whenever you hear this term molten, there is something associated with high temperature. So high temperature fuel cells that use electrolyte composed of molten carbonate salt mixture is called as molten carbonate fuel cell. So this acts as an external reformer to convert fuels such as natural gas, biogas to hydrogen and then to electricity. Another important type of fuel cell is solid oxide fuel cells. Solid oxide fuel cells. In solid oxide fuel cells, whenever you say solid, which is something hard in nature, so non-porous ceramic compounds can be used as an electrolyte. So they also operate in very high temperatures. As you are talking about the non-porous ceramic compounds, which are very hard, they are acting as a catalyst. So most sulfuric resistant fuel cell types are part of your solid oxide fuel cells. Then another type is called as reversible fuel cells. Reversible fuel cells means they produce electricity from hydrogen and oxygen and generate heat and water as byproducts like other fuel cells. So this is reversible. The reverse process is happening in this particular fuel cell. So these are the various types of fuel cells that we have discussed. I think the working process is clear and the advantages are clear, and the types of fuel cells that we are talking about is also clear. So now move on to the multiple choice question, which is based on this particular topic. So consider the following statement with respect to polymer electrolyte membrane PEM fuel cells. We have already discussed this in brief. If you look at this, they need only hydrogen, oxygen from air and water to operate. As I told you in the earlier slide, you require only hydrogen and only oxygen, which is available in the air and produced through water, H2O. So this statement is absolutely true. They operate at high temperatures. No, as I told you, they operate at very low temperatures. They do not operate at high temperatures. So next statement, they are extremely sensitive to carbon monoxide poisoning. As I discussed you, they do not be in consonance with any sort of carbon monoxide components. So they are extremely sensitive to carbon monoxide poisoning. This is true. So here the statement 2 is wrong and 1 and 3 are correct. Only 2 statements. Answer is B. So similar kind of questions has also been asked in UPSC 2015 as well. Whenever you talk about the fuel cells, the concept, the working of the fuel cells, the advantages of fuel cells and the types of fuel cells we have already discussed. Based on this, in 2015 preliminary examination, with reference to fuel cells, which hydrogen-rich fuel and oxygen are used to generate electricity? As I told you, chemical energy is converted into electrical energy by using this fuel cells. This is the question which was given. So pure hydrogen is used as fuel. The fuel cell emits heat and water as bicarbonate, as I explained you in our earlier example as well. So statement 1 is correct. Fuel cell can be used for powering buildings. No, as I told you, for small devices which creates less noise. This has to be reversed, not if it is interchanged, then this statement would be true. Fuel cells produce electricity in the form of alternating current. No, this statement is also going to be in the form of direct current. So here only statement 1 is correct. Now, moving on to the next important issue, the Martian upper atmosphere. As I told you, awareness in the field of science and space is also important for you from your examination perspective. So here you need to understand that the scientists have detected the existence of high frequency plasma waves in the Martian upper atmosphere. High frequency plasma waves. So first you need to understand what is this plasma. What are these plasma waves? Whenever you talk about plasma, what do you mean by plasma? Plasma is also regarded as a fourth state of matter. We have 3 states of matter. One is your solids, the other one is your liquid, other one is gas. So plasma is regarded as the fourth state of matter. It is a type of gas which is made up of electrically charged particles. Plasma is something which is made up of electrically charged particles. So that is why it is considered as fourth state of matter. So you have some ions and free electrons in this particular plasma. It can be found in many places, the plasma. It can be found in flames, it can be found in lightnings, it can also be found in sun as well. In the space, it is found in numerous ways. So in Mars, the scientists have detected the existence of high frequency plasma waves in Martian upper atmosphere. That is the issue that we are talking about. So when you have understood what is plasma, you can visualize what has been witnessed or detected in the Mars atmosphere. So this type of plasma, whenever you talk about this plasma, there is another concept associated with this plasma called as EMIC waves. EMIC stands for electromagnetic ion cyclotron waves. Electromagnetic ion cyclotron waves. It is also a type of plasma waves that is generated in the Earth's magnetosphere. Earth has a magnetosphere. These electromagnetic ion cyclotron waves are produced or generated in this Earth's magnetosphere, which is regarded as a region or space around the Earth that is affected by planet's magnetic field. So Earth has a magnetic field. Because of the influence of this magnetic field of the Earth, this electromagnetic ion cyclotron waves are generated in that particular region. These waves can also resonate with the charged particles, what we are talking about, like the free ions, the ions and free electrons that we are talking about. So they are trapped in this Earth's magnetosphere, causing them to move in a cyclical direction or cyclical motion. That is what is electromagnetic ion cyclotron. So now coming back to our original discussion, as I told you, Simple. You can visualize this with any planet, be it Earth or be it Mars, whatever planet you're considering. This planet has some magnetic radiations, electromagnetic field associated with this particular planet. So this magnetosphere will be influenced, surrounded by this particular planet. So whenever any solar winds are coming, this magnetosphere will not allow the passage of this solar winds to influence this particular planet, be it Earth or anything. This is how you need to understand the impact of energetic particles, which has some influence on this particular planet. So this is the basic thing you need to understand about the plasma. So as I told you, what is plasma is clear. It is short-term fluctuations which happens because of electric and magnetic field observations that are prevalent within the sphere, within the magnetosphere, or within the magnetopause of that particular planet. So these plasma waves plays a very important role in energizing and transportation of charged particles in the Earth's magnetosphere. Everything, the charged particles, every particle's transportation happens within this Earth's magnetosphere. So these plasma waves, like electromagnetic ion cyclotron waves, acts as a cleaning agent for the Earth's radiation belt, which is hazardous to our satellites. It does not allow, as I told you. So now coming back to the context of this particular article, it is talking about the context of Mars. Mars magnetic field you need to understand before understanding the plasma waves and all. Unlike Earth, major important unique factor is Mars does not have global magnetic field. In this particular case, as I shown you, what is Earth's magnetosphere and magnetic field, Mars do not have any kind of magnetic field. So Mars is believed to lack a liquid iron nickel core. It is considering iron and nickel core, which is responsible for generating some sort of global magnetic field on Earth. Mars is thought to have a mostly solid and partially molten iron nickel core, whereas if you take the case with case of Earth, it is completely opposite. So Mars does not generate any kind of magnetic field, is absent for Mars on its own. So this is the thing that you need to understand. So what is the recent development now? The issue is talking about the recent development. So the recent development is confined to the planet Mars, which says that Mars do not have any intrinsic magnetic field. So when it do not have any intrinsic magnetic field, the high speed solar winds that are coming from the sun, as I told you, it interacts directly with the Mars atmosphere because there is no magnetic field in between. With respect to Earth, you have Earth's magnetosphere and magnetic field, which is acting as an obstacle, but that is not the case with Mars. So researchers from the Institute of Geomagnetism have examined the existence of high frequency maximum or plasma waves in the Martian plasma environment, because direct interface has been provided because of the absence of magnetic field for the Mars. So Mars atmosphere and volatile evolution mission, you might have heard this MAVEN, MAVEN, which is a spacecraft of NASA, has observed this. So these waves, it could be either electron oscillations that propagate parallel with the background magnetic field, or it can also be an electron oscillations which propagate perpendicular to the background magnetic field. So in the magnetosheath region of Mars, there is something called as plasma waves which were detected within the Martian upper atmosphere. This is the whole development that has happened recently, which was been found out by the MAVEN. All right. So now let us look at a question, multiple choice question, which is based on the above discussion. In the context of Mars, consider the following statements regarding its magnetic field. As I told you, Earth possesses magnetosphere and it also possesses magnetic field, which acts as a hurdle for solar winds to reach the surface of the Earth. But in case of Mars, possesses a global magnetic field similar to Earth? No. As I told you, Mars do not possess any sort of magnetic field. Any intrinsic magnetic field is not provided with respect to Mars. First statement is wrong. The Martian magnetic field is primarily generated by liquid, iron and nickel. It says that it is primarily generated by liquid, iron and nickel core. Yes, it is correct. Whereas contrary to this, Earth is made up of solid iron and nickel core. So second statement is true with respect to Mars. Mars lacks a significant magnetic field but exhibits localized magnetic anomalies in its crust. As I told you, it do not have any intrinsic magnetic field, but it exhibits some sort of intrinsic localized magnetic anomalies in its crust. That is happening. That has been witnessed. Is that visible in Mars? Yes or no? No. This is also wrong. Any sort of magnetic field is not present in Mars. So here your answer should be only one. Similar question has also been asked in UPSC 2016 regarding the Mangalyaan mission, which was launched by Indian Space Research Organization. You can attempt this particular question as well. Now moving on to the next article, which talks about BeamStack. BeamStack is again important. It forms part of your GS paper 2, regional groupings and India and its neighborhood. Why this? What is the central theme of this particular article? As I told you, Ambassador Indira Mani Pandey has assumed charge as Secretary General of BeamStack. So you need to understand few important aspects with respect to BeamStack, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation. So few important points regarding this is BeamStack, where it is headquartered. It is headquartered in Dhaka, Bangladesh. This is the first important point that you need to understand. So what is the primary objective of this BeamStack? As the name suggests, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation. So if you look at the geographical areas of this particular BeamStack, it is predominantly confined with respect to Bay of Bengal region. All the countries which are surrounding this Bay of Bengal region, the littoral and adjacent areas concerning the South Asia and Southeast Asia are members in this BeamStack grouping. So if you look at the grouping's size in terms of membership, it consists of 7 countries. One is Bangladesh, second one is India, third is Myanmar, fourth is Sri Lanka, fifth is Thailand, sixth is Bhutan and seventh is Nepal. So these are the 7 member countries who are part and parcel of your BeamStack. If you talk about the history evolution of BeamStack, as I told you, it was established in 1997. If you look at the original formation, with the inception of its establishment in 1997, the BeamStack has been designated as BISTEC because only Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, economic cooperation, only 4 countries used to be members of this particular grouping. After that, the renaming has happened in 1997 itself. It became BIMSTEC. One additional member country got added into this BeamStack grouping. Same Bangladesh, India, Myanmar's inclusion changed the nomenclature or naming of this grouping. Sri Lanka and Thailand, economic cooperation. So finally in the year 2004, 2 new countries have joined this. One is Nepal and the other one is Bhutan, our neighboring countries. Made this the BeamStack, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation. What are the primary or the main objectives of this grouping, BeamStack grouping? Number 1, it has to ensure economic development, facilitate economic development in this particular region. Second important objective would be to ensure equality and partnership among the member countries, which encourages the spirit and equality among all these countries. That could be your second objective. Third is you have to ensure collaboration, promote active collaboration in the areas of common interest among all these countries. And fourth important aspect is you need to have mutual support in key areas, mutual support in education, in science and technology. All these forms your major objectives of this particular grouping called BeamStack. So every organization, every grouping has also certain principles which forms the bedrock of this particular grouping. One or some such principles of BEAMSTACK is to ensure sovereign equality. Sovereign equality means respecting each other's sovereignty. This is the first fundamental principle of this particular grouping. Second important principle is territorial integrity, upholding the territorial integrity of all the member states. This is the second important principle. Next is political independence, respecting the political independence of each and every member country in this particular group. Next important principle is non-interference. Whenever you say non-interference in the internal affairs of the member states. Next is peaceful coexistence, promoting peaceful coexistence among the member countries, which ensures mutual benefit. This could be another principle. Mutual benefit, ensuring activities are mutually beneficial for all the countries. And also it should ensure complementarity. Complementarity means acting as a complement but not as a substitute to other bilateral groupings or multilateral groupings. These are some of the fundamental principles of this BEAMSTACK grouping. This you have to know from prelims point of view. Moving ahead, let us solve a multiple choice question with respect to this BEAMSTACK, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. Consider the following statements. BEAMSTACK is an international organization involving countries from South Asia, Southeast Asia, bordering of Bay of Bengal. As I told you, the statement is correct. It was originally formed as BIST Economic Cooperation, including Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka and Thailand, and later expanded to include Myanmar, Nepal and Bhutan. Yes or no? Yes. The years are different. First Myanmar got added, then in later stages 2004 Nepal and Bhutan got added. So the statement also stands true. Third, the major objective of BEAMSTACK is to foster economic and technological cooperation among its member states. Out of various objectives, economic and technological cooperation is also one of the objective of this BEAMSTACK grouping. Pakistan is one of the member countries of this BEAMSTACK. As we have seen the 7 member countries in our earlier discussion, it includes Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Bhutan and Nepal. So Pakistan is not a member. If you eliminate 4, you are left out with only one option. Option A, 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Similar question has also been asked in UPSC examination, the same question. You can go through this and attempt this question, which was asked in CDS examination in the year 27. Moving on to the next important issue. Next important issue talks about the cabinet approves overarching scheme called Prithvi Vigyan, which is part and parcel of the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Prithvi Vigyan, the name Prithvi is taken from this particular term called as Prithvi Vigyan, which is an initiative of Ministry of Earth Sciences. So the cabinet has approved this particular scheme, which is related to Ministry of Earth Sciences. This Prithvi Vigyan scheme will stay in the functioning or implementation for a period of 5 years, starting from 2021 to 2026. The time period is also important. And the overall budget allocation for this particular Prithvi scheme is 4,797 crores. So what is the significance or importance of this Prithvi scheme? You need to understand this, which is related to Ministry of Earth Sciences. Whenever you're talking about Ministry of Earth Sciences, there is something which is related to Earth system or Earth system. So whenever you talk about Earth system, Earth basically consists of sciences which deals with 5 components. The Earth system is basically classified into 5 components. One is your hydrosphere, second is your atmosphere, next is your geosphere, fourth is your cryosphere, and fifth is your biosphere. 5 spheres of the Earth. So any system that studies all the 5 components of the Earth is part and parcel of this Prithvi scheme, which was launched by Ministry of Earth Sciences. So the overarching scheme of Prithvi will holistically address all the 5 components of the Earth system, as I told you. So if you look at the objectives, what could be the primary objectives of this particular Prithvi scheme? One important objective is augmentation and sustenance of long-term observation of all the 5 Earth systems. All 5 Earth systems observation is part and parcel of this particular scheme called Prithvi. Observation of atmosphere, geosphere, cryosphere, solid earth and ocean. It forms an important objective. Second important objective is development of modeling systems. You have to develop certain modeling systems so that you can understand and predict any changes of weather patterns, any changes in climatic hazards, or any changes in ocean that is happening. So the signs of climate change can be understood by development of certain modeling systems. Third important component or objective of this Prithvi scheme is exploration of polar as well as high sea regions of Earth. Polar regions and high sea regions can also lead to discovery of new phenomenon for identification of several resources which were hidden in these regions. This could be the third objective. Fourth important objective of this particular Prithvi scheme is it helps in development of technology for the exploration and sustainable harnessing of oceanic resources as well. And finally, last important objective of this particular scheme is it has to translate the traditional knowledge that we have and the insights that we have regarding our Earth systems into societal and economic benefits. This translation has to happen. The knowledge and information and innovation that we are having has to be translated into societal, environmental, and economic benefits. These are the primary objectives of Prithvi or Prithvi Vigyan scheme of Ministry of Earth Sciences. So now let us look at an MCQ based on the above discussion. Consider the following statements about the Prithvi Vigyan initiative under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. First option is Prithvi is an initiative launched for a period of 2001 to 2026 with an overall budget of 4,797 crores. We have seen this in our early discussion. So this statement stands true. The main focus of Prithvi initiative is on space research and planetary exploration. It is not on space research and planetary exploration. It is only to study the Earth systems. It is only the study of Earth systems, the 5 components of Earth systems, not space exploration. It is only used for the study of atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, cryosphere, and biosphere, but not space exploration and planetary exploration. So 2 was wrong. If you eliminate 2, 2 options are gone. You are left out with A and C. If you go to the next third statement, one of the objectives of Prithvi is to augment and sustain long-term observation of Earth's atmosphere, ocean, geography, cryosphere, and solid Earth. This is true. 3 is correct. Finally, the final statement. The initiative aims to develop modeling systems for predicting weather, ocean, climatic hazards for understanding the science of climate change. This is also true. As we have seen the objectives, this is one of the important objectives as well. So here the answer is C. 1, 3 and 4 are correct. On similar lines, you got a question in UPSC 2013 in your prelims paper. What are the factors that are responsible for bringing dynamic changes in the surface of the Earth? Electromagnetic radiation, geothermal energy, gravitational force, plate movements, rotation, revolution, all the above statements have a direct and indirect impact on the surface of Earth. This is true. Moving on to the last topic of our discussion. Last topic of our discussion is regarding the Dizzy Yatra, the center's Dizzy Yatra. This forms part of your GS paper 2. The central government has recently introduced this Dizzy Yatra enrollment, which takes off airport security staff sign-in flyers without their consent. So this is an initiative which is considered as innovative project in India, which aimed at transforming the airport experiences for travelers. Whenever you go to airport, there are a lot of protocols that you need to follow for hassle-free movement. So to minimize that and make the travelers move very freely without compromising on the security check, this Dizzy Yatra scheme has been introduced. So the basic objective of this Dizzy Yatra is it enables contactless, seamless processing of passengers by a technology called as facial recognition technology. No security forces involved in the process. Contactless, seamless processing of passengers at airports happens with this facial recognition technology. So the travelers can move throughout the airports, throughout checkpoints, paperlessly, contactlessly by using this facial recognition technology. So when was this Dizzy Yatra established? It was basically established in the year 2019 and applied on a joint venture project under Section 8 of the Companies Act of 2013. Then it was introduced. But the journey of Dizzy Yatra has undergone various ups and downs, and the foundation which is responsible for the creation of this Dizzy Yatra is Dizzy Yatra Central Ecosystem. DYCE is the responsible foundation which acts as a pan-India entity for passenger identification or validation. DYCE, Digi Yatra Central Ecosystem. So, if you look at the implementation part of this particular Digi Yatra, initial rollout has happened. Initial rollout was started in Varanasi and Bangalore in the year 2022, and the expansion of this Digi Yatra has been planned to the cities of Pune, to the city of Vijayawada, Kolkata, Delhi, Hyderabad, coming March. So this exam and the phase-wise implementation after exercising this in these particular cities, phase-wise implementation has to happen, and Airports Authority of India will identify airports for phased implementation of Digi Yatra. It is the AAI which has to identify that. So what are the primary objectives of this Digi Yatra? By looking at it in from a nutshell, prima facie, if you could observe, hassle-free transfer. So it enhances passenger experiences. Operational efficiency can be brought in with lower operational cost. Digital transformation is ensured. Security enhancement happens because the technology that you are using, facial recognition technology, security enhancement can happen, and identity verification will also happen through the issuance of digital ID systems, which is a very strong verifiable government issued identity like your Aadhaar, we can say. So these are the basic objectives. Every purpose comes with certain drawbacks or certain concerns. You have certain concerns. Concerns is individual consent. Some people might be interested, some people might not be interested to share their facial biometrics very often. So that could be one major concern. Second, it could be data security risks as well. We are talking about data breaches, very weak privacy policies, personal data protection. All these has been in news. So data risk could be another second concern. Third could be coercive enrollment. If Airport Authority of India has asked to implement this Digi Yatra in a particular airport, that becomes a coercive enrollment. Passengers might feel subtle forced in order to take up this particular program or be a part of this particular program. Next is unclear data usage. The data that is being collected by every flyer or a passenger, there is uncertainty about how the data collected might be used, or it might also be monetized. We do not know. Very unclear and vague rules with respect to data usage as well. And finally, data protection legislation has to be brought in. There is lack of data protection legislation. These are the various concerns. Now, let us look at an MCQ which has come up talking about this Digi Yatra initiative. The first statement is saying that Digi Yatra is a project aimed at enabling paperless, contactless processing of passengers at airports in India using facial recognition technology. It is very much true. The Digi Yatra Foundation was set up under the Companies Section 8 of Companies Act 2013 and not 1956, with the primary objective to implement the Digi Yatra central ecosystem. So Section 8 is right, but Companies Act of 2013 and not 1956. The statement is wrong. 2 is wrong. If you eliminate 3, you are left out with 2 options again. So next, third statement. The initial rollout of Digi Yatra was planned for Varanasi, Bangalore airports in August 2022, followed by expansion of other major airports like Pune, Vijayawada, Kolkata, Delhi and Hyderabad. It is absolutely true. One of the key objectives of Digi Yatra is to eliminate the usage of government-issued identity cards at airports. There is no such provision which is eliminating the usage of government-issued ID cards. No, this is not correct. So here the answer is C. 1 and 3 are correct. On similar lines, a question has also been asked in UPSC Prelims 2022 regarding the Web 3.0. Try to answer this question as well. So hope you're clear with all the topics we have discussed. Thank you and see you in the next session.